The Kremlin is paying a double price for military failures. On the one hand, the population is asking more and more questions about the combat capability of the army. On the other hand, Putin's entourage is earnestly looking for someone to blame, and thus questioning the authority of the Kremlin's head. After all, only Putin appoints the entire military elite. Moreover, his press secretary has repeatedly said that the Russian president himself takes part in directing military operations. Putin's associate Kadyrov blamed the Russian Defense Ministry for the defeat, both in the Kharkiv and in the Donetsk region.
The commander of the Central Military District, Colonel General Alexander Lapin, was in charge of the defense of this area. The same Lapin who received the Star of the Hero of Russia for the capture of Lysychansk. Although de facto he was not there and even was not around, the troops of the Western Military District were under his command. Ramzan Kadyrov, head of Chechnya, on Telegram.
Kadyrov did not overlook another Putin appointee, Valery Gerasimov, head of the General Staff. Like he was warned about a possible failure in this area, but he did not react. Such statements could not have been imagined a couple of months ago. Now there has been no response, nor did the Kremlin respond to criticism of the owner of a private military company, the oligarch who is called Putin's cook, Yevgeny Prigozhin.
This competition has gone public. We see, for example, the statements of Kadyrov and Prigozhin with obvious criticism of the Ministry of Defense, which is trying to shift the responsibility to the Federal Security Service and so on. We see that there is a fierce internal struggle going on, while they try to appoint a scapegoat.
Such statements in a non-democratic country cannot but undermine the reputation of the authorities, experts say.
Federal outlets had largely expressed hopeful attitudes that newly mobilized men and deployed reinforcements could either hold the line or conduct counterattacks in the near future, prior the Kadyrov statement. But talk shows on federally controlled channels picked up immediately on the Kadyrov-Prigozhin statements, prompting commentators to criticize the military high command on live television. From a report by the Institute for the Study of War.
Experts spoke about the tension between Putin's close associates in the first month of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Many in the Kremlin did not like Western sanctions. Journalists believe that they managed to compensate for discontent with money and repressions.
Since the beginning of the war, in order not to lose the support of the population, including the elites, the Kremlin has been actively distributing this money through a variety of channels. Russian elites are now still comfortable in terms of money. Well, the second reason, in addition to money, of course, Putin built a powerful repressive apparatus in Russia.
Mobilization has become a new reason for general discontent. Officials, MPs, everyone who serves the regime rushed to look for loopholes in order to avoid summonses.
Of course, there are attempts in the Russian elite to save themselves and their family members from mobilization. Everyone is trying to put themselves and their loved ones on all kinds of lists to avoid going to the front line. The problem is different. Even if you are an official and can protect your son, and your son has friends, you have distant relatives, it still turns out that mobilization hits some of the elites.
But so far, the elites are not ready to protest, much less to overthrow the regime, all because of the Kremlin money for loyalty and repression for the dissatisfied. And criticism from propagandists is nothing more than an attempt to whiten Putin's reputation.
All the howling that propagandists and aggressively minded politicians have raised is a purposeful action to shield Putin, save his reputation, that it's not his fault for the defeats that the army suffers, but the generals in the field.
Experts believe that the Kremlin is already beginning to understand the inevitability of Russia's defeat in the war, but they are not yet ready to admit it. Moreover, they are not ready to reckon with tens of thousands of Russian military personnel who have been killed in Ukraine, and future inevitable losses, reported by Sergei Kulyas, Ksenia Barvinenko, UATV News.